film begins in a barbershop where a man is playing a song game with a young child. Among them is our main character, Maharaja. He's also asked to join the game, but instead, Maharaja asks for a day off tomorrow. He wants to take his beloved wife to pick out a gift for their only child. In the end, Maharaja gets permission to take the day off. Next, we see Maharaja choosing a doll for his child. Across from the toy store, his wife watches what he's picking out. At first, the doll doesn't look that great, but then Maharaja finds a purple bunny doll, which his wife immediately approves of. While looking around, Maharaja notices a house decoration shaped like a mother and child and decides to buy it too. But just as he's about to pay, a reckless truck drives straight toward where his wife and child are waiting. The truck crashes into a house nearby, causing a metal trash bin to fall from the upper part of the building. The scene then shifts to the present, where we meet a young girl named Jyothi. Jyothi isn't very good in school. Her only real talent is running. Because of this, most of her teachers don't like her except for the physical education teacher, Asifa. Asifa cares a lot about Jyothi and is training her to compete in a running race. Soon after, Jyothi introduces her home, and it turns out that she is Maharaja's daughter. She lives with Maharaja and Lakshmi, which isn't an ordinary family member cause it's actually the trash can that fell from the house earlier. In this story, we learn that when the truck crashed into their home, the trash can fell and somehow protected Jyothi, making her the only survivor of that terrible accident. Since then, Lakshmi has become part of their family. Maharaja keeps it clean and even includes it in family photos, cherishing their small, unique family. We also see how much Maharaja loves Jyothi and would do anything to protect her. One day, Jyothi was accused by the school principal of putting alcohol in a guest drink. When they discovered Jyothi was innocent, Maharaja was furious and insisted the principal apologize to her. When security tried to remove him, Maharaja grabbed a pole in the office, showing his strong will. He wouldn't let go until the principal apologized, determined to defend his daughter. Afraid that Maharaja's strength might damage the school building, the principal eventually apologized to Jyothi. Then, the day arrives for Jyothi to leave for a regional running competition. She asks her dad to keep her updated and to make sure Lakshmi stays clean while she's away for a week. One night, Maharaja comes home late from work. We don't immediately see what's going on, but a snake is creeping into his house. It slithers through the bathroom and into the living room, where the place is a mess. We then see Maharaja lying on the floor, unconscious and bleeding. The scene then shifts to a car repair shop, where a big man, who's a politician or official, arrives. His car is being serviced, but as soon as he enters, he starts hitting the workers in the shop. He accuses them of stealing his expensive glasses, which he claims went missing from his car after the repair. Angrily, he demands they return the glasses, saying they were a gift from his girlfriend. Later, we see Karunakaran, the politician who was throwing a tantrum, hanging out at a bar with his politician friends. Soon, one of the repair shop workers he had beaten up approaches him. It turns out this worker was the one who took the glasses. Angry from being mistreated, the worker breaks the glasses right in front of Karunakaran and then starts fighting him, along with Karunakaran's friends at the bar. The next morning, at a local police station, a thief is about to be beaten by an officer. While the officer is hitting the thief with a baton, it suddenly flies out of his hand and lands near Maharaja, who is waiting in line to file a report. The officer notices Maharaja and realizes he's there to report something. Maharaja then begins telling his story in detail, starting from when he returned home late from the salon and arrived at his house, only to be attacked by 3 burglars. The most important part of the story is that these burglars stole Lakshmi, the special trash can in Maharaja's home. Thinking Maharaja might be a little odd, the officer tries to kick him out. But before they can, Maharaja grabs onto a metal shelf in the police station. Then, once Maharaja grabs onto something, he won't let go until he gets what he wants. Suddenly, a snake appears, hiding on top of the shelf. Everyone in the station panics and runs out. However, Maharaja calmly catches the snake and shows it to everyone there, surprising them all. The scene now moves to a rich man's house, which had recently lost some gold. The thief who was caught is reenacting how he stole the jewelry, while the homeowner and a police inspector named Verdurin watch. Verdurin starts to get suspicious, wondering how the homeowner has so much wealth that doesn't seem to match his job salary. He feels something shady is going on with where the money is coming from. As Verdergen heads back to his car, the homeowner comes up to him, complaining that the gold returned was actually fake. Little do they know, Verdergen had secretly teamed up with the thief. The thief had been instructed to create fake jewelry to return to the homeowner. When Verdergen arrives at the police station, he's shocked to see the place in chaos, all because of a man named Maharaja. Verdergen calls Maharaja over and lets him explain his problem. At first, Verdergen considers taking on Maharaja's case about his missing trash can, but he tells Maharaja he'll need a clear clue to find the culprit. Maharaja then mentions that one of the thieves had an ear on his back. Finding the story too strange, Verdergen eventually kicks Maharaja out of the station. This time, everyone in the station holds Maharaja back, making sure he can't grab onto anything. As an extra scare tactic, Verdergen even grabs a gun to make him leave. But after being thrown out, Maharaja returns with a big stack of cash to try and bribe Verdergen. Since he's doing this openly in front of everyone, Verdergen slaps him and reminds him that if he wants to bribe someone, he should at least be discreet, not in front of everyone. After that, the police investigate Maharaja's house. They find signs of a break-in, but they also discover that Maharaja has saved up a large amount, and it's 1.5 million rupees. The police start to think that there must be something very valuable hidden in the stolen trash can. They're sure Maharaja is hiding something, making them even more determined to keep taking money from him. Then, we meet a man named Selvam. At first, he seems like an ordinary person in a house, but he's actually robbing the place. In the house, a mother and her young daughter are tied up with their mouths covered. At that moment, Selvam and his friend, even while robbing, are casually cooking and eating there. The victims beg for their lives, saying they're willing to give anything to the robbers. Even though the mother has handed over all her valuables, the robbers seem unsatisfied. One of the robbers glances at the young girl, hinting that he plans to take her and create a video that would get many views. While his friend starts to harm the girl, Selvam calmly eats and picks up some unique items around the house that he finds interesting. After they finish their cruel acts, they set the house on fire. But this isn't the end of Selvam's story. Surprisingly, Selvam is a loving father with a wife and a young child. Anyone who doesn't know his true identity would think they are just an ordinary, happy family. Selvam plans to give one of the unique items he stole to his beloved daughter, Amu, but she innocently rejects it. Shortly after, Selvam casually tosses the item into Maharaja's trash can. Meanwhile, Maharaja continues to be taken advantage of by the police, who keep demanding he buy them food and drinks and do as they say. One kind-hearted officer warns Maharaja that he'll only keep getting used if he stays there. But Verdergen has formed a special team to look for Lakshmi. However, instead of finding the real trash can, the team searches for stores that sell a trash can identical to Maharaja's, planning to give him a fake one. While this goes on, Maharaja remains stuck at the police station, while Jyothi is focused on training for her race. The scene then shows three events happening at once. First, Selvam is continuing his robberies, where he lets his friend do certain actions to the victims that could bring them money. Despite this, Selvam still seems to deeply care for his own child. Meanwhile, Maharaja is anxiously waiting for any news from the police. At a furniture shop, we see Kazanhai, the officer tasked with finding a trash can like Maharaja's. Kazanhai then meets Nalasaivam, a police informant who happens to be on vacation. Noticing what Kazanhai is doing, Nalasaivam offers to help him find someone who can make an exact copy of the trash can. Back at the police station, a workshop worker arrives, looking for his friend who has been missing for 3 days. This friend, named Donna, was last seen beating up a politician, Karunakaran, at a bar. When Maharaja accidentally sees Donna's photo, it's clear that he recognizes him. The story shifts to a flashback. During the robbery at Maharaja's house, when he woke up, he found a car repair receipt at the scene. This clue started his search, as he traced the car using the license plate number. His search led him to a bar where he found Karunakaran. Maharaja asked him about the car, and from talking to Karunakaran's friends, he learned that the car had recently been taken to a repair shop. But as typical for a politician, Karunakaran's answers were mostly unhelpful and full of nonsense. Soon after, Donna arrived at the bar and immediately began fighting Karunakaran and his friends. Maharaja watched the entire scene, realizing that Donna was one of the people who robbed his house. After Donna left, Maharaja tried to follow him, which led him to a place that looked like a workshop or factory. There, Maharaja was ambushed by Donna's friends. At first, Maharaja seemed helpless as they attacked him. When they almost cut his hand, Donna looked shocked. At that moment, Maharaja pulled a razor from his pocket and began fighting back. He glared at Donna with anger, and though Donna's friends tried to surround him again, Maharaja managed to fight them off. Finally, Donna himself stepped in, and they faced each other directly. Maharaja demanded Donna reveal the identities of the other two people who had entered his home. To buy time, Donna grabbed a sharp object, stalling while he answered. Donna finally told him that one of them was at a police station near Maharaja's neighborhood. When Maharaja let his guard down, Donna quickly stabbed his leg and escaped on a motorcycle. Determined not to let him get away, Maharaja ran after him with a machete. In the end, Maharaja managed to catch and stop Donna. The scene shifts back to the police station, where Maharaja and Donna sit quietly, avoiding eye contact. Acting innocent, Maharaja asks whose picture is on display. His friend explains that Donna is someone who works at his workshop and frequently causes problems. Donna once borrowed money and ended up in jail shortly afterward. Maharaja had hoped to gather information about Donna's police connections, but his friend doesn't know anything about that. Soon after, Karunakaran arrives to report an assault case. The police bring the workshop worker and Karunakaran together, and they begin arguing about the fight. Verderjan steps in, stating that both of them could be at fault. Karunakaran mentions that someone named Ilyaraja had shown up before Donna, but that's all he recalls. Meanwhile, Nalasaivam accompanies the police in search of someone to create a replica of Maharaja's trash can. They finally locate the right person who promises to make a similar trash can within 2 days. The story then shifts to Selvam, who is at a jewelry store with his wife and daughter, buying Ammu a gift. His wife initially reminds him not to spend too much, but Selvam assures her, saying it's for their child. On the other side, Jyothi, focused on training for the regional race, is about to scold her friend for taking her shoes without permission. However, she lets it go after realizing that her friend, Manju, had broken shoes and needed them. The next day, while eating, Asifa approaches Jyothi and notices she looks sad. Jyothi then admits that she really misses her dad and Lakshmi. Asifa asks why Jyothi often scolds her dad. Jyothi explains that her dad feels proud when his daughter knows a lot, and scolding him is just their way of showing they care about each other. At the factory where Donna was killed, 2 police officers meet. One of them is investigating the missing trash can that belongs to Maharaja, while the other is looking for Donna. Meanwhile, the metalworker finishes creating a trash can that looks exactly like Maharaja's. The scene then switches to Selvam, who is picking up a necklace for his daughter. His wife calls to remind him that their child's birthday is coming soon. She also asks him to get supplies for the birthday ritual and not to forget to shave his long beard. On his way home, Selvam stops at a barbershop. This barbershop seems to belong to Maharaja, though something feels different. Before getting a shave, Selvam calls someone to give them directions to his house. He also mentions that there will be a party at his place. After the call, Selvam sits down to be shaved. Here, Maharaja appears very young, like in the beginning of the story, indicating that this scene happened in the past. While shaving, Maharaja tries to start a conversation with Selvam. Through their talk, Maharaja learns that Selvam's child's birthday party will begin at 3:00 p.m. However, during the shave, the razor's battery suddenly runs out, so Maharaja steps outside to buy new batteries. While Selvam is alone in the barbershop, he gets a call from a friend. His friend sounds worried, saying that their recent robbery has made it to the newspaper. His friend is anxious, feeling it's only a matter of time before they're caught. Selvam tries to calm him down, saying there were no witnesses, so they should be safe as long as they stay calm and avoid panicking. However, Selvam doesn't realize that Maharaja is standing behind him during the call. Not knowing how much Maharaja heard, Selvam begins to feel uneasy afraid Maharaja might have overheard and could report him to the police. Back at Selvam's house, the birthday party is about to begin, with guests arriving and food being prepared. Meanwhile, Selvam sits quietly on his bed, looking worried. His wife notices his mood, and Selvam explains that he's just feeling tired from work. When his partner in crime, Sabri, arrives, Selvam tells him about the incident at the barbershop, mentioning that someone might have overheard their conversation. After discussing it, they both agree to kill the barber and split their stolen goods for now. Suddenly, Selvam's wife calls out, saying the necklace meant for their daughter is missing. Selvam looks confused and begins searching his bag, only to realize he left the necklace at the barbershop. Feeling sorry for Selvam missing his child's gift, Maharaja decides to bring the necklace to Selvam's house, using the address he overheard from the phone call. Just as Selvam searches for the necklace, Maharaja unexpectedly arrives at the house. Right behind him, the police coincidentally show up to arrest Selvam. At this moment, Selvam becomes certain that Maharaja, the barber, has reported them to the police. Seeing the commotion outside their home, Selvam's wife becomes confused. The police then reveal that Selvam is a robber who committed terrible crimes against the women he robbed. Selvam glares at Maharaja with a look full of anger and hatred. His wife, refusing to believe it, begs Selvam to explain and convince her that this is all a misunderstanding. But, overcome by guilt and his grudge, Selvam can't say anything to her. In the chaos, Sabri pulls out a gun and threatens the police. Selvam, now panicking, tries to calm Sabri down. Unfortunately, in his panic, Selvam accidentally admits that they are indeed the criminals. His wife is shocked and horrified to discover that her seemingly good husband has been hiding such dark secrets. Suddenly, a balloon pops, startling Sabri, who accidentally fires his gun, hitting a police officer. Sabri is shot in return and dies on the spot. Meanwhile, Selvam is arrested, leaving behind his wife, who now despises him, and his child, who is crying. In his despair, Selvam catches Maharaja's furious, vengeful expression. Back in the present day, Maharaja waits in the police station cafeteria, listening to a voice note from Jyothi. In it, Jyothi says her shoes are worn out and asks her dad to buy her a new pair, even though she actually gave her shoes to Manju. However, this moment is interrupted when the police arrive, announcing that Maharaja's trash can has been found. The fake trash can is ready too, looking exactly like Maharaja's original one. To make the fake trash can look real, the police decide it has to be dented and dirty. Selvam does a good job with this task. However, one officer worries that Maharaja might notice it's a fake. Verdurjan explains that even if Maharaja figures it out, it's not a problem. In fact, it might help them understand what Maharaja is really looking for. Their main goal now is to find someone willing to play the part of the trash can thief. The problem is, it's hard to find anyone willing to admit to stealing an empty trash can, even for money, because it seems embarrassing and isn't seen as an honorable crime. Verdurjan decides to increase the reward from 30,000 rupees to 50,000 rupees for anyone who will confess by morning. Hearing this, Selvam volunteers to play the role of the thief. Meanwhile, Jyothi is almost home, and they wonder how she'll react if she finds out Lakshmi is still missing tonight. To make sure Selvam can act well as the thief, Verdurjan asks the officers at the station to have Maharaja repeat his story again. This time, Verdurjan and Selvam will listen carefully to ensure their plan goes smoothly. Soon after, Maharaja begins telling his story, introducing himself and his job. He explains that he came home late at night from his barbershop. After locking up, he went home, placed his keys in a flower vase, and settled in. Meanwhile, Jyothi arrives home. Then, as Maharaja continues his story, describing his actions in detail, Jyothi mirrors them in real time, like she's following his narration. She takes the keys from the vase, unlocks the door, and turns on the light, making it seem like Maharaja is describing her exact actions. After that, Jyothi heads to her room and begins changing clothes. Suddenly, she senses someone watching her. It's Dana, who sneaks up behind her with Selvam. At that time, they try to restrain her, covering her eyes as she struggles. Jyothi manages to push Donna away and knock Nalasivam to the ground. But as she reaches her room door, she's struck with a metal rod. The person hits her again as she tries to escape, and it's Selvam. Without mercy, he kicks Jyothi, punches her, and spits at her. Moments later, Selvam, Nalasivam, and Donna leave the room looking frustrated. Selvam is annoyed because their target, Maharaja, wasn't there, and they only found Jyothi. Then, Nalasivam suggests doing something even worse to Jyothi. Without a word, Selvam and Donna nod in agreement, silently giving Nalasivam permission. Next, Maharaja is seen coming home late from his barbershop, but first he stops at a shoe store. He wants to buy a new pair of shoes for Jyothi, as hers are worn out. Unfortunately, the shoes are still in the storage room, so Maharaja has to wait. Meanwhile, back at Maharaja's house, Selvam follows his usual habit during robberies by cooking and eating food from the victim's home. Nalasivam, however, is behaving inappropriately toward Jyothi, while Selvam and Donna continue eating. Donna is even seen wearing the glasses that were a problem earlier in the story. At that moment, Selvam and the other criminals wait for Maharaja to return, growing impatient as time passes. Feeling anxious, Selvam lights a cigarette to calm himself. Donna assures him that no matter what, they must kill Maharaja, even if it takes a while. In the meantime, Nalasivam shows again that he has inappropriate intentions toward Jyothi. The story then shifts back to the police station, where Maharaja continues sharing his story. The audience realizes that Maharaja has been telling the entire robbery from Jyothi's perspective. Shortly after, he finishes his story with a shaky voice, his eyes filled with tears. Afterward, Nalasivam leaves the room, and just as Donna is about to continue his inappropriate actions toward Jyothi, Selvam stops him. Selvam tells them it's time to leave. Donna, initially shocked, remembers that Selvam has a deep grudge against Maharaja because Maharaja's report sent him to prison for 13 years. But Selvam's decision is final, and they quickly leave. After Maharaja finishes his story, Verdurajan and Nalasivam, who have been listening closely, appear stunned. Nalasivam goes silent, realizing that Maharaja is the father of the child he once mistreated. Nervous, Nalasivam tries to back out from posing as the trash can thief, but it's too late cause Verdurajan won't take no for an answer. He tells Nalasivam to stay overnight so they can go to Maharaja's house together in the morning. Nalasivam then calls Selvam, explaining he's in trouble with Maharaja. Selvam tries to calm him down, saying that nobody knows his true identity as a criminal and that he shouldn't panic. After leaving the police station, Maharaja heads straight to the hospital. On the way, his mind drifts to the past, recalling the night he came home late after buying shoes. Back then, he planned to scold his child for forgetting to lock the door. But as he entered the room, he was horrified to find his child in a terrible state. Shortly after, Maharaja arrives in Jyothi's hospital room, looking at his unconscious daughter with sadness. At the same time, Jyothi's grandparents enter, angry and accusing Maharaja of being an irresponsible father who failed to protect his child. Jyothi eventually wakes up and calls for her father. She asks him what she did wrong to deserve this and why this happened to her. She holds her father's hand and makes a single request. She wants to meet the person who did this. Jyothi wants to say something to them. Hearing this, Maharaja agrees. The next morning, Nalasivam is brought to Maharaja's house by the police, visibly nervous. Verdurajan shows him the fake Lakshmi and asks Nalasivam to reenact how he stole it. Soon after, Nalasivam nervously demonstrates, using details he knows not only from the police but also because he is the real thief. As he acts out the scene, he pretends to hold Maharaja in a chokehold, but his hands are too low, as he had actually restrained Jyothi that night. Then, Maharaja remembers Jyothi's words about feeling a bump on the back of one of the attackers. Maharaja hugs Nalasivam, subtly feeling his back for the bump. Sure enough, he finds it. Then, he asks the police for some private time with Nalasivam. Alone, Maharaja questions why Nalasivam feels no guilt for what he's done. Nalasivam simply replies that Maharaja should be grateful he didn't destroy Lakshmi cause he only used it. Verdurajan suddenly arrives and angrily scolds Nalasivam, thinking he might be threatening Maharaja. When Verderjan is about to arrest Nalasavam, Maharaja asks that Nalasavam be released. It seems Maharaja plans to take revenge later. Verderjan keeps asking if Maharaja is sure about his decision. Maharaja firmly confirms it. Finally, Verderjan asks if Maharaja's daughter was harmed. This question shocks both Maharaja and Nalasavam. It becomes clear that the police had actually known about Nalasivam's actions from their investigation into Donna and Maharaja. Seeing Maharaja's desire for revenge, Verderjan hands him a machete, leaving him alone with Nalasivam, allowing Maharaja to do as he wishes. As Verderjan and the other officers leave, he mentions that if the same thing had happened to his own child, he would do the same. Inside the room, Maharaja holds the machete while Nalasivam begs for mercy. But Maharaja's anger is unstoppable. He finishes Nalasivam without hesitation. After getting more information from the police, Maharaja heads toward his final target, is Selvam. At that moment, Selvam, who is managing his hardware store, receives a call from one of his workers, warning him that someone is looking for him. Maharaja is seen furiously fighting and taking down Selvam's men at a nearby construction site. Soon after, Selvam arrives at the scene and comes face to face with Maharaja, shocked to realize that the one who harmed his child is Selvam. Seeing Maharaja distracted, Selvam takes the chance to attack him repeatedly with an iron pipe, venting his anger. Selvam blames Maharaja for ruining his life by reporting him to the police, which led him to lose his wife and child. Not giving up, Maharaja, now understanding the situation better, turns things around. He fights back, overpowering Selvam, but stops short of killing him. Maharaja remembers his promise to Jyothi to let her confront the person behind all this. Shortly after, Jyothi arrives with Asifa, wanting to speak directly with Selvam. Although Maharaja initially refuses, he sees Jyothi's determination and allows her to talk. There, Jyothi tells Selvam that she holds no grudge against him. To her, Selvam is just one of the many monsters women in India face daily. She declares she will overcome this hardship. Then, Jyothi hands Selvam a small bag of jewelry, asking him to leave her alone from now on. Maharaja then takes Jyothi away. As Selvam laughs and opens the jewelry bag, he's shocked to find a familiar piece, and it's a necklace with a red stone design he once gave to his daughter, Ammu. There, he watches Jyothi walk away, noticing a scar on her back, and it's the same scar Ammu had, a scar he had personally treated with ointment long ago. The scene flashes back to the beginning. During the truck accident that killed Maharaja's wife, Maharaja and his family had actually been on their way to Selvam's house. Maharaja wanted to return a necklace that Ammu had left at his barber shop. But since his wife didn't like Selvam, Maharaja decided to buy another toy for Ammu instead. At that moment, a truck crashed into the house, killing Maharaja's wife and biological child. The only survivor of the accident was Selvam's daughter, Ammu, who was later adopted by Maharaja and renamed Jyothi. Realizing that Jyothi is his own daughter, Selvam desperately begs Maharaja to let him speak to her. He breaks down, apologizing and begging for forgiveness. But Maharaja only stares at Selvam with intense hatred before leaving him. Maharaja can't understand how a father could hurt and allow others to harm his own child. Filled with anger, he shoves Selvam, declaring that Jyothi is his daughter now. Soon after, Maharaja leaves Selvam alone. He remembers adopting Jyothi because she had no parents left, just as he had lost his wife and child. And Selvam, left on his own, crawls to the edge of the building floor, cursing himself as he watches Jyothi and Maharaja walk away. Memories of Ammu's birth, holding her tiny feet, hugging her, and carrying her fill his mind. Then he recalls how he later mistreated her, bringing pain and suffering into her life. Overwhelmed by guilt and despair, Selvam falls from the building, dying instantly. The film ends. The moral lesson from this film is if life gives you a trash can as a friend, cherish it cause it might save your life someday. And remember, don't mess with a barber who's got serious grip strength and a heart full of revenge.